What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another edition of Sean Anthony Live. And it is a great pleasure and honor to have my next guest with me. He is a hip-hop legend, Hall of Famer, DJ Mixmaster Ice. Welcome, brother. How you doing, man?
Welcome, fam.
Good to have you, man.
Pleasure to be here.
So listen, Ice, you know, it's crazy. I didn't do too much preparation for this interview physically. It was more mentally and spiritually.
Cool.
Because we have a rapport. And
yes.
I think the best interviews are people, not always, but a lot of the good interviews is with people that you know. Sometimes that could be challenging because you assume you know a lot about a person and you refrain from asking certain questions. But anyway, aside from that, I've been knowing you for some decades now.
Yes, indeed.
And it's very cool to say that I know you and I can consider you a friend. I can call on you and say, hey, I got this going on at the school, and you'll come and pull through.
Big facts.
We've worked at parties together, clubs, radio station events. I mean, we could just go down the list, right?
Right.
Over the weekend, I was watching a documentary, The Defiant Ones, Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen that.
Mm-hmm.
And in this documentary, like a lot of documentaries that come from hip hop, they'll show flyers from old school parties. And I'm watching this documentary, and there was a flyer that came up of all of these different hip hop groups from back in the 80s, and UTFO was there.
Yes.
I was like, man, I'm about to talk to Ice, you know what I'm saying, on my podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very cool. And I've shared this story with you before, and I don't know if you remember it or not, but it's nostalgic for me. And I'm being long-winded with this introduction. Just bear with me, okay? It's nostalgic for me because I will never forget. I remember it vividly in my mind. A young kid, I'm living in Pine Hill, New Jersey at the time, and I'm heavy into hip hop. I'm heavy into music.
Okay.
I was a B-boy growing up in Camden, New Jersey.
South Jersey.
Yep, South Jersey. We moved to Pine Hill, and I remember my mother would always take me to the record store to buy albums, and I bought the UTFO 12-inch single, Roxanne Shante.
Okay.
I mean, you know what I'm talking about.
Our version.
Your version.
Roxanne.
Roxanne, excuse me. Because there is two versions. Roxanne. And to fast forward, I would have never thought in a million years that I would not only work with you at the station, but host parties with you.
Right.
Party with you.
Yes. Kick
it with you.
Yes.
Build with you. And just all around develop a relationship over the years, man.
Yes.
It is so freaking cool to say all of that, man. How does it feel to hear those because I know I'm not the only one.
Right.
But damn it, I want to feel special. I'm the only one right now.
Right.
But how does it feel to know that you have a brick in this building called hip hop celebrating 50 years, man?
It is definitely an honor. It's a privilege. Similar to you, I grew up watching and learning from the pioneers prior to me. I like a lot of times I like to always classify my era as the second wave, and look at the first wave with Kool Herc and Flash and Bambaataa and all those pioneers that laid the early foundation down. But I was a student of the culture and just trying to find my way. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, East Flatbush, just trying to find my way. How was I going to contribute? How was I going to get down in the culture? There were certain elements. You got breakdancing. I couldn't do that. The graffiti and the arts, I wasn't going to be good at that. And then you had DJing and you had MCing. I first started off MCing. And then the next year, I was MCing and DJing, and then slowly put a lot of more emphasis into the DJing. But back to your question, it's an honor and a privilege because hip hop, in addition to it being a culture, it took a lot of us out of the street. It gave us something positive to do, something constructive to do, something that we could build a passion on, and then that build on to other cities and other states and other countries. So when I hear those, words of wisdom and those praises, it feels good because, not only because I put the work in, but I continue to be a student of the game.
Right.
I'm still learning. I haven't stopped. The wheels are still spinning. So when I hear that, it's an excellent and a great feeling. And I give all the praise to the Almighty because, these blessings that we get, we can't take them for granted.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
And, what's crazy is that this was back in the 80s. I from my understanding, I think Roxanne came out like the mid 80s, 85, 86 or something like that.
Roxanne came out the fall of 84.
Okay. Well, back in the day, it took time for records to progress and make their way. So when we moved from Camden into Pine Hill, it was around 86.
Okay.
87. But I remember putting that 12-inch on my record player in my room. It was around that year, 86, 87, what have you. But how ironic that a young kid from South Jersey playing this hip-hop record and a DJ for the legendary hip-hop group UTFO from Brooklyn meet in Columbus, Ohio.
Facts.
What brought Mixmaster Ice to Columbus, Ohio?
Well, when we would tour, there was a lot of promoters in different cities that would bring me back to DJ in their city, whether it be their mansion parties or their skating rinks or DJ their concerts or their concert after parties. I had different cities that at any time when I had any downtime from UTFO or any breaks would bring me into their cities and come and tear it down. Columbus was one of those cities I used to frequent a lot. And after we made our last album in 91, I had already built a great foundation out here from being out here so much and developed some great friends. And one of my DJ buddies that was from out here, DJ Chili, he had a DJ thing going on out here as well. But me and him started doing shows and promoting. And as a result of that, I set up a studio out here. So I was doing beats for people, buying beats off me and buying studio time off of me. But while all that's going on, I'm making a transition from New York to the Midwest. And as a result of that, my first house I ever owned was in Columbus.
Wow.
And that's what really kind of, made me say, okay, this New York thing about to be a wrap. I'm about to be in the Midwest. I'll be going back and forth a lot. But, out here, you got so much a better bang for your buck.
Right.
I was like, oh, yeah, I'm with this. And it was kind of country. It was laid back.
It was kind of country.
Yeah, I liked it. That was peaceful compared to where I came from.
Yeah, I can attest, man, because, I first moved to Columbus when I was 16. Coming straight from New Jersey at 16. I finished high school here.
Gotcha.
That's why I have the core that I do because I came out of Columbus Public High Schools my last couple of years. Then I went a year in Central State.
Right.
But after that, I went to the recording workshop and graduated from studying audio engineering and music production. Then I moved back to New Jersey. And I stayed there a couple of years and had some, extensions.
Okay, yeah.
And I moved back. And that's when I realized at that time, this was in the 90s, how country Columbus was back then. Because I was like, man, I moved back to Camden and I'm coming back to Columbus, and how noisy Camden was coming back to Columbus. It was quiet, But anyway, fast forward, it ain't the same anymore, man.
Right, yeah.
It's totally different. Columbus is now the 14th or 15th largest city in America.
And continuing their growth.
And continuing their growth. So how have you been able to, obviously you said, DJing parties and recording people and stuff like that. What are some of the changes you've noticed in Columbus since you've been here, since you bought your first property?
I would say the growth as far as starting to become more like a metropolitan area. The downtown has really been built up tremendously. A lot of more concerts and entertainment is coming here. You know, people are coming here and doing quite well. Mm. You know, there's a market here that people come out and they love the comedy. They love to get dressed up and go to the different events. So I've noticed the growth in that area. It's a lot more diverse since I was out here in the 90s compared to now. And overall, just the expansion of population. There's a lot of people are moving here. Mm-hmm. A lot going on out here.
Yeah. I felt a certain kind of way when I was watching this documentary, the Defiant Ones. I'm sure you watch stuff on TV and you see the name UTFO pop up. Mm-hmm. Like, what does that feel like, man? Like when you see y'all are etched because you know all 2023. We've been celebrating 50 years of hip hop.
Facts.
So, you know, a lot of homage have been paid to the elder statesmen of hip hop, such as yourself. You say you call your generation the second wave. Mm-hmm. Of course, the first wave with Kool Herc and all of those pioneers.
Right.
But how does it feel to see your name and your group that you're affiliated with being recognized these 50 years?
It's an honor and a blessing. I mean, in the beginning, a lot of people didn't think hip hop was even going to make it this far. Mm-hmm. They thought it was going to be in and out. And, hip hop has had a lot of battles to stay in the game. It has had a lot of ups and downs and positive and negative strikes thrown at it. But at the end of the day, it is a communication for the youth. And when used effectively, it could be a great communication for everybody. You know, when you think of conglomerates and big media companies, they all use hip hop to promote their brands. There's a reason for that. You know what I mean? It's a certain energy that come with it that taps into the youth, and it's a certain frequency that just can't be denied.
Speaking of the youth, obviously hip hop has evolved.
Facts. And
it's a new wave of energy right now. Some would say that the women, they lead in the pack, with the Sexy Reds, Delato, and Coi Leray, and all of these others. Aside from that, you got, I would say the leaders of the pack, Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole, Drake, of course, Lil Durk, Lil Baby, Da Baby. All of these young, talented folks are carrying the torch and expanded. For you being an elder statesman in hip hop, what is your take on the current generation of hip hop?
Hip hop has a lot to do with the current state of our economy, the current state of our world, and people's environment in general, where they're at. Hip hop has had a lot of obstacles to overcome, and in a lot of cases, it's a reflection of where we are today. Right now, we're very technology driven, so technology has a lot to do with where a lot of things end up musically. The way we used to produce beats is totally different now. The rap flow is totally different now. Dancing is dancing, but dancing is even different now. It's hip hop is always going to be primarily very youth driven. Mm-hmm. Of course, you got the living legends that are still inspiring and doing what they do. But at the end of the day, there's always going to be way more younger ones than they are going to be the legends. At the end of the day, we just try our best to pass the baton on and hope we putting it in good hands. You know what I mean? Because the youth is the future. And, one thing that I would like to see a little bit more of, because like what you said, right now the girls are super hot, and hip hop goes through different trends. Right now, the girl movement is very trendy. They giving them deals, and they doing their thing. They making their bread. You know what I mean? However, with that being said, some of the content can not be uplifting to the future generations and our babies that are coming up, because our babies are coming up and they're watching what's in front of them right now. So just me personally, as an older gentleman in the game, I would like to see a little more balance.
Right.
Because that's what we had.
Yeah.
We had the this and the that's, but we had a great flow of balance. I mean, you can filter this, you know. Parents have a hard time now filtering because it's pretty much leveled out to what it is. We had the balance. I wish there was a little bit more balance in the game so that the kids had a little bit more to pick between or choose between.
So talk about that, man. You were in the early stages of hip hop, and I grew up as a connoisseur, a listener of it. You were a creator in it. We knew that there was we had options to choose from. We knew that, man, if this group sounded like that, man, they biting. You know what I'm saying? What was it like in the trenches as you reflect back, looking at the diversity? Did you look at it as diversity back then, or you just like what was your perception of it back then?
Back then, you had to have skills.
Okay.
A lot of people got record deals because they had skills. And one thing that for sure my era could pride itself on, when you came out back then, you had to have somewhat of your own identity. You had to be nice at what you did. And we did not bite. And when I say bite, I mean copycat and try to do what they doing because it's hot and trendy and they eating, so we want to eat the same thing they eat. No, you couldn't bite. You had to be original. You had to come up with new styles. You had to be fresh. You know, when you think of Houdini had a style.
Yeah.
You think of Run DMC. Run DMC had a style. UTFO, we had a style. Dougie Fresh had a style. KRS-One, LL. You know, we can go back to Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Fives and the Treacherous Threes and the Soulsonic Force. And then you could speed up and go into the 90s where you come to the Lost Boys and the Biggie Smalls and the Tupacs. Everybody had different lanes and originality. You know what I mean? Yeah. We had a great, diverse flow of balance and a lot of different flows and textures of hip hop. You don't see as much of that now because it almost seems in a lot of cases it's a money grab. Right. Let's get to the bag. Whatever we got to do to get to the bag is the integrity is a little bit missing, unfortunately. Yeah. But the money that's there now, this bag we talking about, we didn't have bags like that.
Right.
Very few people was really, really eating. A lot of us was doing it from the heart. A lot of us was still building the foundation, to what it is now. So they have it a lot easier now. Yeah. They have it a lot easier now than what we did. You don't even need a record company anymore. Nah. You just upload your stuff to the internet and you might blow up on your own. So they have it a lot easier. You know what I'm saying?
Let's talk about making it your own. You have pioneered the skill set of DJing. Now correct me if I'm wrong, but the sound, the scratch, like that. I probably butchered it. You have invented that sound, or you are one of the pioneers of that sound?
I'm one of the pioneers of scratching that particular sound. That actual sound, that the record that sound comes from is a Fab Five Freddy record. Remember Fab Five Freddy?
Absolutely.
Fab Five Freddy had a hip hop.
Shout out to Fab Five.
Yes, indeed. Fab Five Freddy had a hip hop record called "Change the Beat."
Okay.
And at the very end of that record is that R sound that I made very popular. Okay. Before,
how did you find that sound?
Before that sound, DST, which is the DJ that was scratching for Herbie Hancock on Rockin' It.
Okay.
He was cutting the fresh. That's where we started hearing the fresh. So DST on the Rockin' It song, he was the one cutting the fresh. Now the break at the end of the record, it goes, oh, this stuff is really fresh. So all of that is in one sentence. And DJs will cut each and every syllable of that. They would cut the R. They would cut the this stuff. They would cut the really. They would cut the fresh.
This stuff. Damn.
So all of that came from that one record. You understand what I'm saying? And fast forward a couple of years, a lot of DJs outside of New York didn't know where that was. So what I've come to find out when we would tour, a lot of DJs would try to catch a little bit of the R as I released it on our recordings. And on our second album, the Skeezer Pleaser album, there's a song called Pick Up the Pace that we actually had did for Crush Groove. And on that song, I let the whole sound go. I let the whole thing go. I let it go. Oh, this stuff is really fresh. It was at the end of the scratch I did. So at the end of the scratch, I just let it go. And come to find out, there was a lot of DJs that were buying that album
just because of that.
Just to get that R, because I let the whole thing go.
Wow.
So that's where some people were actually getting it from. But those that knew it was off of the Fab Five Freddy 12-inch.
That's crazy, man. So talk about your experience with Crush Groove, because that is such an iconic hip hop movie. I'll never forget it.
Okay.
I watched it probably 100 times as a kid. You know what I'm saying? You know, Run DMC is just legendary, just
indeed.
like yourself. And just that whole scene, you know, where he comes out, you know, I've been to a lot of places, you know, and I need to know whose house is this? This is my, you know, the whole scene.
Right.
But anyway, what was that like, man, being a part of such a legendary hip hop movie, man?
Well, there's a scene in the movie, it's a taxi scene, and they're playing our song Pick Up the Pace in the background. We actually went into the studio and recorded this song for Crush Groove. At the time, we was on tour with New Edition. This was in '85, and we was touring with New Edition for that year. And Crush Groove, as the development of that was coming on, we had a scene to be in the movie. We actually went and recorded and filmed the scene and everything. There was a scene where we were supposed to be in the talent show with New Edition.
Okay.
I don't know why. I don't know if it was politics. I don't know if what we did was too good. I don't know what the particulars were. But for whatever reason, we were edited out of that scene. It was the talent show scene was for New Edition to win. It was set up for New Edition to win. We were one of the groups that was in this talent show scene. For whatever reason, like I said, it could be politics, it could be whatever. Yeah. Our portion that was filmed was edited out.
Wow.
But the song was still left in the scene for the for part of the movie, and that's how we end up in the song credits, you know, part of the soundtrack, whatever. But yeah, so it was a great experience for what we recorded. It didn't make the final cut.
What was it like? I get it.
It was a song called Pick Up the Pace that we did, which is on our second album.
Did you know that Crush Groove was going to be that big?
Not at the time.
Or not so much as big, but impactful.
Not to the level that it did, but we knew it was going to be something big because of the success of Beat Street, the success of Wild Style. And this was...
And Breaking too.
And Breaking. But this was, the new era that was killing it right then.
Right.
Everybody that was hot was pretty much in there. So at the time. So you knew it was going to be something because most of us toured together. A lot of us, we was out touring, and you know, so you knew it was gonna be something. But just like anything, I don't think we realize the magnitude until it takes off and you see what it does to the masses.
And that's what I want to talk about. I definitely want to get into the touring, but for those that don't know about hip hop history, there are several movies you gotta watch. Crush Groove is one, Wild Style is one, Beat Street is another, and then Breakin'. Breakin' was more popular than the others. I think Crush Groove and Wild Style were more cult classics. Would you agree?
Yeah, they all had their moments and elevation in hip hop. So, all of them are classics to the T. But yeah.
Talk about touring in the early days, because this is where I led the conversation off with at the beginning. Watching that documentary with Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine, I seen this old flyer, and it had these other groups, and then I seen UTFO, and I'm like, damn, man, what was it like back in the early 80s touring? You know what I'm saying? You said you went on tour with New Edition.
Yes.
New Edition, when they came out, they were our Jackson 5.
Absolutely.
So what was it like going to city back there in the 80s?
It was, we was 4 kids straight out of Brooklyn. I was 19 when we did Roxanne. And I was probably 20 when we was on tour with New Edition.
Were they younger than y'all?
Definitely younger than us. They're a few years younger than us, yes. Hitting these different cities and doing what we do as performers, showcasing our routines that we used to do at the block parties, and we're doing them live in front of 7,000 seater, 10,000 seater. We got records that are being played on the radio, and we're performing these records, and people know word for word. You know what I'm saying? And just the whole experience of knowing that you are inspiring others in front of you to want to either follow in your footsteps or find their way into the hip hop culture somehow. Some people are seeing it for the first time. And then there's some that are growing up and watching it, and they idolize you, or you're hanging on their wall already, or, hip hop was starting to take off, and become really, really commercial.
Did you ever think it would be as big as it is, man, back then?
I don't think in the early stages any of us thought it was going to be where it headed. Like we all doing it, right. But when it started to really take off, and now we're doing tours and 10,000 seaters, and we're traveling overseas. When it's a different world overseas. When you start hitting them overseas markets, you got people that can't even talk English,
right? And
they rocking with you because they understand that vibration that's hitting them.
What's been the dopest country that you've been able to experience?
It's been a bunch, man. It's been a few. I remember Germany, right at the time when the East and the West was knocking when they was knocking the wall down. I remember we was right there at that. I want to say that was 89 maybe. I remember we was out there at that time, and I just remember it was like a festival. It was like a hip hop festival going on for like 3 days. Can't remember which day we were on, but it had to be about 50 groups within 3 days. And I remember being a part of that. That was huge. That was real big. It's so many, man.
Yeah.
I remember one time performing with the Jets. It was us. It was UTFO, Lisa, the Jets, and we was over in Hawaii. Wow. And at the time, the Jets had that song "Crush on You," that was real big, and they were from Hawaii. And I remember that concert was insane in Hawaii, just insane. They loved Lisa, they loved UTFO, and of course they loved their hometown favorites, the Jets. It was I just remember the energy of that show from beginning to end, non-stop, fan just going crazy over us.
Who put y'all on?
As far as
like putting y'all on, like getting y'all to a record deal.
I would say Full Force and our late great manager Steve Salem. Responsible for getting us the deals and we were signed to Full Force Production. They did the majority of our production, and through Steve Salem and Full Force shopping us around, we ended up with Select Records.
Was it easy to get a record deal back then compared to how it is, I would say, over the past 15, 20 years? In the early days, you know what I'm saying?
No. To be honest, I don't think it's ever easy getting a deal, because so many more people are trying to get in through the door.
Yeah.
The door is only that big. And now it's oversaturated with so many people trying to get in.
Right.
But even back then, you know, as this thing is starting to take off, everybody wants a deal, but everybody's not going to get a deal.
Right.
Back then, you really had to have a record company. We didn't know what we know now. We didn't have social media, and we didn't have, you know, the internet like they have it, they use now. Yeah. Back then, you needed a record company. At least you thought you did. You needed a record company. They had to promote you. They had to market you. You had to go out and do promos. You had to go out and you had to do tours. Mm-hmm. You know, and this was all to sell records.
Right.
You know, and then, you know, your show money, of course, but it was a whole process. You had to do radio. You had to go around city to city doing interviews, you know, stopping at the stations, showing love to the stations that's blowing you up. So it was a process. Some of that process still goes on to this day. Yeah. You go on and you do certain things with radio, and you know, but now you got commercials. Now you know you know they're selling their song through a phone, or they're selling their music through some type of a product that they're marketing with it.
Right.
You know, so hip hop has grown.
You know, you mentioned radio, which is a perfect transition, because this is where I was going next. This is how we met.
Gotcha.
We met in radio. My radio career began at WCKX Power 107.5, Columbus, Ohio.
Facts.
You were an intricate part of the success of the early days of Power 107.5 when we were kicking ass in the city. How did you transition into radio? How did you start to DJing at the radio station?
You know what? It's really me just being me, and the talent I've been blessed with within hip hop. You know,
was there a show that you got on first, or because I don't remember
what happened? What happened with the radio here? Different promoters sometime would have me go to the station and cut commercials for events that I'm either DJing or a concert that's coming that they may have me be a part of, whatever case may be. Or it might even been, I remember times I was promoting stuff and I would cut commercials, go to the station and you know, do the commercial, and in the commercial play, you know, 30 seconds, 60 minutes, whatever it may be. So I was already had a relationship building just from going in and out of there, breaking bread, doing commercials. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times I would DJ events that the radio station was having.
Right.
So there was different areas of how I was connected to the inside. Mm-hmm. I would DJ a lot of the
anniversary parties,
yeah. And even concerts that they would have. Yeah. You know, so there was a lot of things I was already doing with the station. I had a great relationship with a lot of great people up there, and that eventually led to me getting my own show.
Okay.
I was doing a show. If I remember correctly, it was one of the shows we was doing at Cooper Stadium that me and Bobby used to do.
Bobby Ferguson.
B-Fame, yes indeed.
Shout out to Bobby.
Shout out to Bobby. And we was doing these shows every year.
Hold on. Cooper Stadium ain't even around anymore. For those that remember. The Columbus Clippers used to play there, man. Yes. For those who want to do your history.
And we used to do a lot of big hip hop concerts there.
Huge shows.
And one of the shows, there was a memorial. I'm gonna tell you what happened. There was a Memorial Day party going on. It might have just been a radio station party that Bobby was promoting. Anyway, I don't know who came up with the idea, whether it was Bobby or the PE at the time, Paul Strong. They wanted me to come in and do a little taste on the morning show. So I come up there with my turntables and my records, and I'm up there cutting in between the breaks of Paul and his crew. And the city went bananas.
Yeah.
Because I'm on the station rocking these old school classics
Right.
back to back on a station that was really geared to the young urban music of that time.
Right.
Here it is, I'm throwing on these throwbacks.
Yeah.
And the city's going crazy. So the GM at the time, Charles Richardson,
shout out to Mr. Charles.
He came back there in the midst of the show and he told Paul, he said, Paul, I don't know what we got to do, but we got to get him in here. And Paul said to him on air, he said, well, I don't know. This is Mixmaster Ice. He ain't going to be cheap. This is going to take going to be some work to get him up in here.
Yeah.
He said, I don't care what it's going to take. I want him up here.
I can impersonate Mr. Richardson too.
Oh, man. And so he has a lot to do with it.
I don't know who this is, but we got to get this. We got to get Ice. We got to get this guy. Shout out to Mr. Richardson.
Yes,
man.
indeed. And he had a lot to do with it. I had a couple of meetings with him that went great. And as a result of those meetings, I ended up getting my own show called The Old School Basement Party.
Yeah.
It was during,
Sundays.
at the time, one of the air personalities was my homie Kanata. He had a slot at the time. And it was during his Sunday night slot that I was able to do my Old School Basement Party.
Yep.
It was from 6 to 10 on Sunday nights.
Loved it.
And it ran for 4 years straight, the hottest show in the Midwest on Sunday nights across the whole Midwest. You had radio stations changing their format to try to compete and do what we were doing.
Listen, man, and listen, during that time frame, there was no radio station effing with anything that we were doing. Because I did the night show. I was on the nights at that time, Monday through Friday, 6 to 10. And from Paul Strong in the mornings, Von Roy G in the afternoons, my show, Sean Anthony, All Night Flavor Show at night, the weekend. We had it a lot.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And yeah, it was a nostalgic moment. It was very unforgettable. Yeah, we put our stamp in the city, man, and I'm proud to say that I was a part of that.
Absolutely,
you know what I'm saying. But it ain't about me tonight. It's about you and what you did, man. That was phenomenal. That was
2002 to 2006. It was that bracket when I had that show on the radio.
Man,
great run.
We had a great run. Listen, man, I could talk to you for hours, Ice, but it's so cool. Like I say it all the time, every time I see you, man, like it's nostalgic for me, because I can call you up and say, hey, we're doing this, doing that, man. We got stories too, man. I remember there was a party. This was before I moved to go to do radio in Detroit. I don't know if you remember this, but I had a party to host, and you were DJing. It was back then. It was called the Big Easy. I don't know what it's called now, but
I got you.
We met up at my apartment.
Okay.
We did some pre-gaming.
Okay.
We left out together, man. We were lit, and we came and turned that party out, man. But that was like so many, man.
Yeah.
Listen, man, it's always good to give people their flowers, man.
Thank you.
It's very cool to know that you still have the love for it, man, and you still are willing to share it. And the dopest thing, man, is that when I had you at the Ohio Media School, one of the things you said to me, and you said it recently earlier, that I'm still learning.
Yes.
To be an elder statesman in this industry called hip hop, this genre called hip hop, you are still a student of the game.
Yes.
And that's something that I echo to my students, that I'm still a student as well.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Because I always say, if you're not growing, you're dying.
Facts.
So continue to grow, man.
Facts.
Ice, I love you, brother. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Appreciate you, man.
Thank y'all for tuning in as well. I appreciate the platform.
The legendary Hall of Famer, DJ Mixmaster Ice. It doesn't get any better than this, man. Thank you for tuning in to Sean Anthony Live, y'all. Peace.
Man.